Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome, dear viewers, to our episode, The Scattered Perals. I'm your host, Abdulrahman Dimashqiah. We're still with the same previous topic that we ended with, and that is the issue of the God-fearing. And we ended to this conclusion that those who fear Allah more, they are more honorable in Allah's perspective. And this is the divine scale. We heard about a word, wali, awliya. Who's the wali? And who are the awliya? The wali is, linguistically means the one who is close. The wali of Allah is the one who is close to Allah. How can we achieve this honor to be close to Allah? The answer is found in a beautiful verse where Allah the Almighty says, أَلَا إِنَّ أَوْلِيَاءَ اللَّهِ لَا خَوْفٌ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا هُمْ يَحْزَنُونَ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَكَانُوا يَتَّقُونَ لَهُمُ الْبُشْرَى فِي الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ لَا تَبْدِيلَ لِكَلِمَاتِ اللَّهِ ذَلِكَ هُوَ الْفَوْزُ الْعَظِيمُ. Translation: surely those awliyaullah, those who are near to Allah, will have nothing to fear or grieve. They should not fear, they should not grieve. Those who believed and feared Allah. Those are the two pillars to be close to Allah. Those who believed and feared Allah. For them are glad tidings in this life and in the hereafter. There is no change in the word of Allah. This is indeed the great success. That's it. To fear Allah, to believe in Allah. Those are the two pillars to achieve the wilayah, the loyalty, the closeness, the nearness to Allah the Almighty. Not the wali is the one who holds rosary and people are chasing him, trying to touch him, seeking his blessings. This is the imagination with people. The very moment this word is mentioned, it implies to them that this is the wali. The wali is a person, as we said, even if he may be a poor person, not known person, he will be honored by Allah and he will be close to Allah the Almighty. I remember an incident that happened in the lifetime of the Prophet, peace be with him. That one of the companions quarreled with Bilal, the companion of the Prophet. He got angry with him and he called him the son of a black woman. Then the Prophet, peace be with him, was extremely angry with this. He said, you defamed him with his mother? You denounce him with the color of his mother? You are a person that still have some traces or tracks of ignorance. This is a track of ignorance. That you insult the people, embarrass people by their color or etc. This is an insulting, and the Prophet, peace be with him, blamed this companion of him that he said it. So the true wali is a person who had really applied those two conditions, to fear Allah and to believe in Allah. What is the fruit of fearing Allah the Almighty? Fruit? The fruit of fearing Allah the Almighty is to make things easy for you in this life and in the hereafter. Let us deal with another verse where Allah the Almighty says, it's a beautiful verse. After Allah was talking about the story of Qarun. Qarun was one of the companions of Moses. And he had a lot of treasures. A lot of treasures. The animals, the horses, the donkeys were not able to bear the weight not of the treasures I should say, but the keys of the treasures were so heavy that even the horses and the donkeys were not able to bear it. Then people wished to be on his place after he went out with all of his adornment. So people said, we wish that we have what Qarun had. He is extremely lucky person. But those people of knowledge, they said to them, woe to you, waylakum, which means the threat is getting closer to you. This is an expression, waylakum. The reward of Allah is better for he who believed and did righteousness. And no one is going to be attaining that utmost achievement except those who are truly lucky people. Then Allah the Almighty suddenly caused the earth to swallow him. He became upside down. 1 second before he was up with his adornments. After 1 second, nothing is available. He, with all of his adornments and his treasures, were under the earth. Then those who wished to be at his place before, they said, we thank Allah that we were not like him. Had we been like him, we would have been under the earth with him now. Then at the end of the story, Allah Almighty said, تِلْكَ الدَّارُ الْآخِرَةُ نَجْعَلُهَا لِلَّذِينَ لَا يُرِيدُونَ عُلُوًّا فِي الْأَرْضِ وَلَا فَسَادًا وَالْعَاقِبَةُ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. Translation: that is the house of the hereafter. We assign it to those who do not desire exaltedness upon the earth or corruption. And the best outcome, the best consequence, the best outcome is for the righteous people. That is the best consequence for those who fear Allah. The best result is for them. What else? There's a beautiful verse in the chapter in the Quran called At-Talaq, divorce. It gives us, this chapter, 3 good news for those who fear Allah. Let us read them together. Allah the Almighty says, وَمَنْ يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مَخْرَجًا وَيَرْزُقْهُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا يَحْتَسِبُ وَمَنْ يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مِنْ أَمْرِهِ يُسْرًا وَمَنْ يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يُكَفِّرْ عَنْهُ سَيِّئَاتِهِ وَيُعْظِمْ لَهُ أَجْرًا. Translation: and he who fears Allah, He makes for him a way out and provides him from sources that he could not ever imagine. And he who fears Allah, He will pardon his sins and will magnify his reward. So by fearing Allah the Almighty, you can be forgiven. And you will be given mercy. As Allah said about those who fear Him, أُولَٰئِكَ سَيَرْحَمُهُمُ اللَّهُ. Those are the ones whom Allah is going to extend them with His mercy. And he who fears Allah, He will make things easy for him. Things will be easy for him. Allah will make a way out for his problems. And Allah the Almighty will forgive him his sins. See, there's an important point here. That when people commit a sin or do things wrong, disobey Allah the Almighty, they will be deprived from the things they desired and from the things that they sought to disobey Allah with. Give an example. The people of the Sabbath. Who are the people of the Sabbath? They used to be rebellious people, sinning, ignoring Allah's commands. As a punishment, because of their transgression, Allah the Almighty deprived them from something they really needed to provide themselves with. And that is the fish. Fishing was the source of their provision. So the fishes and the whales used to remain at Saturday while they used to disappear all the other days of the week. And they were ordered not to fish on Saturday. That was a punishment. So they were in a big test What should they do? They had to make tricks. They used to tie the fishes, not to take them at Saturday, to tie them at Saturday, to make holes in the sea, so the fishes and the whales will be stuck in, and they come at Sunday saying, we did not fish at Saturday, we're fishing at Sunday. So since they violated His law, since they transformed His law, they were themselves transformed as a punishment. So what is the consequence of disobeying Allah? That you will be deprived from what you wish and what you like. Remember this, when you disobey Allah the Almighty and when you commit a sin, that the consequence of the sin may be that you'll be deprived from the thing that you desire to get. We remind ourselves and yourselves of the thing that we mentioned at the beginning of the subject, that the addressing of taqwa and the supply is taqwa is very important. And this was mentioned in the Quran in chapter Al-A'raf, where Allah the Almighty says, يا بني آدم قد أنزلنا عليكم لباسا يواري سوآتكم وريشا وَلِبَاسُ التَّقْوَى ذَلِكَ خَيْرٌ. In the chapter also, Al-Baqarah, وَتَزَوَّدُوا فَإِنَّ خَيْرَ الزَّادِ التَّقْوَى. Translation, O children of Adam, we have sent down to you clothing to cover your nakedness, and as an adornment. However, the best clothing is piety. Such are among the signs of Allah that they may receive admonition. So don't forget this. The best clothing is piety. When Allah was talking about covering the body, Allah reminded us to cover our hearts. And the best thing to cover our hearts with is piety. For there are people that are not naked by their bodies, but their hearts are naked. And in the other verse, take necessary provisions with you for the journey of Hajj. But the best kind of provision and supply is the provision of taqwa. That is the best of all kind of provision. That is the clothing and the support of the, because the heart needs support. This is the food, this is the nourishment of the heart to fear Allah the Almighty. And this is the dressing of the heart. We will be back with you on the same topic of the God-fearing in our episode, The Scattered Pearls. Be with us, inshaAllah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Let's talk.
So this is something that you have to point out to them in the Bible.
Something which is, I think, very direly needed by the youth, which is staying firm on the truth.
This is just one of the greatest examples for me of how to control your anger.
Within the framework of being the cleanest religion, the cleanest jurisprudence, and in the meantime, the kindest religion to animals.
Watch Let's Talk with Khalil Amanet as he interviews guests and discusses a variety of topics, everything from youth issues to religious issues. Join us here on Huda TV.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Dear viewers, welcome back to our episode, The Scattered Pearls. When people feel ashamed that they are naked, you should also feel ashamed that your heart is naked. People care about the issue of nakedness of the body, while they don't really give a care for the issue of the nakedness of the heart. And a matter of fact, nowadays, people even don't really care about being naked concerning their bodies. Anyway, The worship of Allah is the source to attain taqwa, God-fearing. As we find in some verses, I'll recite them quickly. Allah the Almighty says, O men, worship your Lord who created you and those before you, that you may fear Him. Sometimes we have problem in translation. They translate the word tattaqun, that you become pious. Tattaqun means to fear Allah. You see, if you avoid Him, He will let you avoid His. If you avoid Him, He will let you avoid His, or He will avert you His. What do we mean by this? If you avoid the anger of Allah, the things that cause Allah's wrath and anger, Allah will avert you from what He has as a consequence of His anger. Hell, punishment. So, avert disobeying Allah, and Allah will help you to avert His punishment. In tattaquhu yaqikum. If you fear Him, He will avert you His punishment. So, worship your Lord that you may become among those God-fearing ones. In another verse, O you who believe, fasting was prescribed to you as it was prescribed to those before you, that you may fear Allah. So, as if Allah is telling us, you fast, you pray, those are the sources where you can attain the God-fearing. Also, in applying the punishment of Allah concerning those who disobey Allah and harm others by their crimes such as killing, stealing, etc. Those are the limits of Allah, and they had to be applied. Punishment should be applied concerning these kinds of sins. And Allah said, for punishment, there is a life for you, that you fear Him. For the punishment of the criminals, there is a security of life for the innocents. And also when Allah urged us to give sacrifices in our rites of pilgrimage, we give the sacrifice, the sheep. He also said, nothing will reach Allah, neither its flesh nor its blood, but what reaches Allah from you is your piety and God-fearing to Him. Also, if you are really anxious for the righteousness of your son, you are so anxious that if you die, you wish that your offspring, your children are going to be righteous. You be righteous, and that will help to let your children be righteous. If we remember the story of Musa and Al-Khadr, Al-Khadr was maintaining the wall of orphans, and that wall was about to collapse. Then Al-Khadr came and fixed that wall. What did he say? He said, that wall belonged to 2 orphans in the city, and their father was righteous. That's why Allah commanded Al-Khadr to come and to fix this wall for them. Their father was righteous. So if you want Allah to take care of your children for their righteousness, for their piety, then you be righteous, hoping that Allah will be also making your children righteous. What can bring also righteousness and God-fearing? Well, let's say knowledge. The more you know about Allah, the more you fear Allah. That's why Allah the Almighty said, verily, among those who fear Allah most are the scholars. So the more you fear Allah, the more you know about Allah, the more you fear Allah. That is why it's very important to know Allah by His names and attributes soundly. Why do I say soundly? Because some people, they seek to block people from knowing Allah through His attributes, saying that, well, that doesn't fit with Allah, this one doesn't. If Allah knows that it is not fit to Him, it doesn't fit Him, it doesn't fit His Majesty and Highness, then why He described Himself with these kinds of attributes and names? So the more you know about Allah, the more you fear Allah the Almighty. Let us remind you of the story of the Prophet where 3 people came to his house investigating about his way of worship, how he used to worship Allah. When they were told about how he worshiped Allah, then one of them said, who we are compared to the Prophet. But one of them said, I pray all night and I do not sleep. The second one said, I fast all days and I do not break my fasting. The third one said, I do not approach women. That means he dedicated himself in worshipping Allah, so he doesn't care about having a wife. The Prophet, hearing what they said, he came to them and he said, what's the matter of so and so people saying such and such? I swear by Allah that I fear Allah more than the 3 of you. Yet I pray and I sleep, I fast and I break, and I marry the woman. This is my sunnah. Whoever does not accept my sunnah, he is not of me. That is my way. So the Prophet said, I know better than you about Allah, and I fear Allah more than you. So the more you know about Allah, the more you fear Allah the Almighty. What is also important is the moment that you sin, you return to Allah and you fear Allah. And that fearing of Allah will be a breakthrough from any problem that you encounter. We also remind you about the 3 people who were stuck in a cave. And the cave was blocked by a rock. So, that means there is no more communication between them and the outside world. No more. Finish. So, one of them said, ask Allah by the most sincere work that you ever did for His sake. We get back to this very important topic, and that is the sincerity. Is a very important thing. And we can realize in this story, as I'm going to mention it to you, that sincerity performs miracles. Well, we do not forget the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam when they threw him in the fire. Why? Because he was resisting and fighting polytheism. And he was monotheistic. His monotheistic faith saved him, and the miracle took place. They put him in the fire, and he felt cool and peace in the midst of the fire. Miracle. So the man said, ask Allah by the most sincere work that you did. See, Allah in this story is teaching us something. Righteousness. How to be righteous. This story reforms the behavior and the conduct of people. So the first one said, oh Allah, you know that I had parents, and I used to bring the milk and give the milk to my parents, then I allow my children to drink. But I proceed with my parents. And you know, Allah, that one day I came and I found my parents sleeping, and my children were hungry and thirsty, but I did not allow my children to drink, and I did not allow myself to wake them up, because I want to be extremely righteous to them. Oh Allah, if you know that I did that for your sake, then save us from what we are. Then the rock was moved, but was not enough. The other one said, oh Allah, you know that I had a cousin of whom I loved too much, and I wanted her in the wrong way. Then one day she came to me, and she was needy. She needed money. And I seduced her. I asked her to do something with me. At the moment when she gave up, she was helpless. She needed the money. Suddenly, when I was about to touch her, she said, O servant of Allah, fear Allah, and do not do this thing except by the lawful way that pleases Allah. Then suddenly, I heard the word fear Allah. Then I returned back, and I gave her the money, and I said, you go. This money is for you, and I'm not going to touch you. Oh Allah, if you know that I feared you, and I let her, for your sake, make a breakthrough, or help us and save us from what we are in. Then the rock was moved, but was not enough. The third person, he said, oh Allah, you know that I had a worker that used to work with me, and I used to give him his salary. But once he left me without taking his salary, and I took his salary, and I was investing his salary, investing it, to the extent that this investment became a big multitude of numbers of sheep and cows and camels. And when he came to me once, he said, you remember that salary of mine? Give it back to me. I said to him, do you see all of those sheep and camels and cows? He said, yes. He said, all those are yours. I said, are you kidding with me? That's not my salary. My salary is very small. He said, yes, but I invested it for you. Oh Allah, if you know that I did this for your sake, to please you, save us from what we're encountering. The rock was moved, and that time was enough for them to leave the cave. What do we learn from this? We learn righteousness, sincerity, and righteousness. Righteousness to your parents, righteousness in maintaining yourself from any kind of evil conduct, such as fornication or etc., and also how to be good to people, to do the thing for the sake of Allah. This is a beautiful story, and that shows the fruits of piety and God-fearing. If people all do these kinds of things, the earth has no problem. But the earth today is corrupted because of the misconduct of people. Birds flu, crazy cow, AIDS, and new diseases on the way, as long as people turn away from their Creator. Thank you very much for being with us in this episode of The Scattered Pearls. I think we can still have something additional to give you concerning the topic of God-fearing. Thank you very much. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.